I wanted to talk about a couple of recent cases, an update on, is it East Ohio Regional Medical Center, I think, where they weren't paying their employees, and then on LifePoint, because you guys are sending me the LifePoint stuff left and right. Okay, so I want to talk about that. And then I wanted to kind of explain a couple of terms that I use a lot. I don't think people understand, but I struggle a lot with, like, on one hand, I am a fierce advocate and I will fight to the death and every ounce of my being to fight for nurses, right? And then I will turn around and simultaneously be very angry and frustrated with them because the apathy, the cowardice, and sometimes the scales will shift disproportionately towards the apathy and the cowardice. And that's kind of what's been happening recently. And so I've been getting very, very frustrated. And the terms that you hear me throw around a lot are drinking the Kool-Aid, and the corporate Stockholm syndrome. And I am surprised how many of you don't really know what that stems from, what that means. So drinking the Kool-Aid is from, I think it was like 1978, 79, Ghana, the Jonestown Massacre, where something shy of 1,000 people knowingly agreed, like willingly drank cyanide-laced Kool-Aid and died. They were so brain fucked and manipulated and brainwashed by their cult leader that they just agreed to sit down and drink Kool-Aid with cyanide knowing they were going to die. And like kids, and their kids too. It was terrible, right? So when you hear me say y'all are drinking the Kool-Aid, you all are drinking the corporate Kool-Aid. You are so brainwashed. You are so brain fucked by admin and corporate and management that you're just like, please, sir, may I have another? Please, sir, give me more. Which, that's a Oliver musical theater reference for those that don't know. It's shocking. It's a shocking sight to behold when you are looking at it from afar. Like, please wake up. Please stop drinking the Kool-Aid. And the other term I use a lot is Stockholm Syndrome, corporate Stockholm Syndrome. That was, I don't know if it originated with this, but this is kind of where it became really well known, is the Patty Hearst case, which was like 1974 or something. Patty Hearst, granddaughter, William Randolph Hearst, okay, mega millionaire of the time, was kidnapped for a long time. And over time, she went from being the kidnapping victim, seeing them as her enemy, to identifying with them and sympathizing with them, and even went on to rob banks with them. It was like the Symbionese Liberation Army, something, I don't know. So that's where Stockholm Syndrome, the term, came from. But when you turn it into corporate Stockholm Syndrome, it is just like it sounds. You are sympathizing with your employer, your corrupt employer. Anything that they say or do wrong, you are going to make excuses for them. You are going to defend them. You are going to assume that they're not coming at it from a negative, with a negative goal in mind. Like you are just so manipulated by them. Okay. So I wanted to point that out because I don't think people understand. But, East Ohio Regional Medical Center, I believe that was the name. Last week I posted a video about how they were not paying their employees for like the second time in 6 months. The amount of comments and messages and emails I received from employees there defending them defies explanation. Like, you all were really telling me, it's not that they didn't pay us last time, Erica. They paid us a few days late. And you think that that's acceptable? Really? Really? You are drinking the Kool-Aid. You have corporate Stockholm Syndrome. You need therapy. Okay, my guy, you need therapy. All right? You are so brainwashed. Like, it's embarrassing. Yeah. Okay, so that happened. And then LifePoint, which is like the parent company of a ton of hospitals around the country, but I think specifically in Kentucky this week, they announced like these sweeping pay cuts and cuts to benefits. And y'all are pissed, but not quite pissed enough to do anything about it, it would appear, for the most part. So it's pretty bad. Like, they're cutting shift diff, weekend diff, critical care diff. So some people are getting like $14, $15 an hour less, just like massive pay cuts, and slashing their PTO and some other benefits. It's not just nurses. It's also like lab techs and rad techs and stuff like that. And the really like bad part is they're starting it next week. Like, they gave them 1 week of advance notice. That's it. It's really, really bad. And y'all are pissed. Rightly so, because there's no excuse there's no scenario in which that is acceptable, right? But are you doing anything about it? I'm sure that some of you have submitted resignation. Some, a fraction. One nurse went to the news, the local news, as far as I know. Maybe there's more, but I've only seen one. And I mean, kudos to that nurse for having the balls to speak out, because nurses don't normally do that. But in the interview, she said, we're just going to keep trying. We're just going to keep showing up for our patients, or something to that effect. Hear me when I tell you that there was absolutely a point in time before they announced this where they were all sitting around their big boardroom table talking about if they're going to do this or not. And someone said, what are they going to do? We know they're not going to quit. If a handful do, okay, that's fine. But we know that the nurses, by and large, the majority, will just come to work and accept it. They'll complain for a while, but they're still going to show up. So why wouldn't we do this? I promise you, these conversations are had because they know what you as a nurse do not know, that nurses are apathetic and cowardly, and we are our own worst enemy. What do you think would happen if, hell, even a third of the nurses, half the nurses, the majority of the nurses submitted their resignation? They can replace a few. Can they suddenly all at one time replace half the nurses? No, they can't. They can't. So what do you think would happen if you all actually took a stand, drew a line in the sand, organized, and did something about it instead of rolling over, instead of just saying, please, sir, may I have more? You can do the hard things. You can make the scary choice that comes with inherent risk. You can do that. You can choose to not hide behind your excuses. I'm a single mom. Yeah. I was a single mom too, like I've said a million times, for years and years and years. Never stopped me from having courage and doing the right thing and making the hard choices. You can do that instead of only complaining at the nurse's station or in the break room. And if you're going to stay there after they effectively bent you over without lube and said, you know what, we're just going to keep doing it, you should at least be using this as the opportunity to organize and unionize, right? Because they never, ever could have gotten away with this if you were unionized. This should be your wake-up call. Yeah. You should be organizing and not losing the momentum that you have right now, because in a couple weeks, you won't have it anymore. You need to use this momentum to start the process of organizing and get unionized. If you are insisting on staying there and continuing to drink the corporate Kool-Aid and suffer from corporate Stockholm syndrome and not get the therapy that you need